So this is the self-development with tactics.
Bock.
So, you might know Jay Leno. I didn't know his name before actually, but I know him as a person and I know just how he's looking like and whatever. But it's gonna be about him today. And it's gonna be about something pretty interesting that he did and that I assume he's also doing. Like, I really hope as well that he's still doing that. But more after the intro, as every single day. And yeah, with that being said, hello, welcome back to the next episode of the Self-Development with Tactics fucking podcast. I'm pretty pumped. I'm really pumped. This is the first episode of today. I am not really quite in a hurry. No, I'm not. It's quite fine. It is really quite fine. But, before I forget to mention it, because I sometimes tend to forget to mention it, this particular episode is also available as a podcast, which means that it actually is a podcast. But this particular episode, so this YouTube video that you're just seeing here, is also available as an audio-only version, which means that you can just listen to it, which means that you can save quite a lot of time by being able to do something simultaneously, which means that you can just do something simultaneously, besides just sitting there for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, no matter how long this video is gonna be, and sit there and basically only do one thing, which is just listening or watching me talking about some things. But you could also just step right in the description of the YouTube video and there's going to be a link to the podcast, and then you can listen to it just as it would be music. And I assume that you've been listening to podcasts before, so it's basically the same. It's basically this video just only in audio form. And it is amazing, because it is at least a little bit more efficient, for some people. Some people like to have the audio only version, or they just even prefer it over the video. And some people are like, nah, I want to see the person. I want to see what he's talking about. And I want to see the article itself. And, some people prefer this and some people prefer that. And if you prefer the podcast or if you're able to learn that way, then I would heavily suggest you to just step into the podcast, subscribe to it, and listen to this particular episode as an audio-only version. But, we're going to talk about Jay Leno, and he did something amazing, It is something pretty interesting. At my point of view, it is something really, really interesting, because he took a 50% pay cut on the Tonight Show, so the Jay Leno Tonight Show, I guess it is called, and there is a reason why he did that, and the reason is really interesting. The reason is a really interesting one. And to actually, before we actually step into what the reason is, the maybe kind of, his normal salary would have been 30 million. I think it is a year or something, because I do really not assume that it is a monthly salary, or it could actually be a monthly salary as well. It's just, I guess, maybe it's just an overall money thing. Like, okay, he gets 30 million for the whole show, and for the whole period of time the show is on, or the show is airing. Could also be the case. I assume it is actually not the case, and I assume that it is an yearly salary, I guess. Monthly, I guess it would just be a little bit too much, But he was earning 30 million a year or a month just through this show. And they just cut it by 50%, which means that he was left with $15 million. The thing is, a lot of people might now be like, just having 30 million or 15 million, it is just enough. It clearly is enough. And I'm just totally agreeing with that. It clearly is enough to just lead a pretty great life. It is just more than $1 million a month. It really is. And if it is just 30 million, it is actually, just let me calculate it. It is actually more than 2 fucking million a month. It is just insane. It is really just enough. This is something that people make a year, and not even a year. This is what people make in a lifetime, not even in a lifetime. I'm talking about $1 million. I'm really not talking about 30 million, because I do assume there has been a study or something, and they have been like, okay, the normal kind of person, the regular person, the really regular mid-class whatever person, is able to generate, I think, somehow like 1 million in their lifetime, which I assume could actually be the case. As I'm thinking about, maybe a little bit more. Maybe it was 2 million or something, because as I'm just calculating it, it might be a little bit too less. But the thing is, why did he do it? Why did he actually decide to do that? Because, like, of course, 15 million, but okay, it is the half. You wouldn't like to just accept half your payment, half your monthly salary as well. So why would he? And the reason is this. We managed to keep all our people and just spread the money around a bit. And what does that mean now? What does that mean? The thing is, the Wall Street Journal also reported that there have been layoffs, or potentially there would have been layoffs, but just because Jay Leno decided to actually cut his own payment, they were able to just keep all the people. And now, like, why did he do that? Because, okay, there is a reason for why he just took this 50% cut, but, what is the intention there? And I totally believe, and I also just, as I went through this article, I also thought, like, well, it really indeed is a pretty great reason to do that, and the reason is that some people of the staff, they were really, really loyal, which means that they have been working for them, or working for the producers maybe, or with their, I don't know, with the company actually for 22 years. 22 years is quite some time, and he just didn't want to leave them, or he didn't want them to leave just because they got laid off, just because they didn't have enough money, and just because he gets paid fucking 30 million. And the thing is, of course, they're able to just sustain a lot of people through having an additional 15 million. It is something. And I also would say that Jay Leno doesn't really need it. I assume, at least. It still depends on, what his expenses are, and he still believes on his family and whatever, because, maybe sometimes there is some handicapped person in your family, and this just really costs a lot of money, It just also depends on where you're living and whatsoever, but it really costs a lot of money to just be disabled or handicapped or whatever. It really is expensive, unfortunately, really unfortunately. But he says it is a decision, or they say actually from the article, it is a decision Leno would make again. We had a really loyal staff, he says. We had the same people for 22 years, so almost nobody left. I had the same writers, same producers, and same talent coordinators, which is something I totally believe is a great thing, because I don't know. They have been working with you or with the company, but I also assume with you yourself. They have been working with you for quite some time. They know what you're up to, they know how you are, and they know how this whole business should be led. They know how to basically incorporate themselves. They know what to do in the business, they know what they should be doing, and they know how to do it the right way. And it is something pretty valuable, because the thing is, of course, there is also going to be the case that there is stuff that is definitely like really experienced, from other genres or from other studios or whatever it might be. But it is not the same, It is not the same as working with this person, because everyone is an individual. Everyone is different, and everyone is behaving in a different way. And some people might fit for the way you're working or you want them to work, and some people won't fit. And I assume because they're having loyal staff, which means that they just decided to stay there, either they're getting paid a lot of money, which I actually kind of do not assume, or they just like the whole experience or the whole atmosphere of their workplace, And if it is actually the case, it is something really, indeed, interesting and amazing, because I don't know, I guess this is actually something that every employer wants to have, an atmosphere, a culture, that's where people say and employees say, okay, they like to work there, and it is just fun to work there, and it is just amazing to work there, just because the culture and the people and the boss and whoever is just so amazing, lovely, whatever. Above all, Leno, now the host of CNBC's Jay Leno's Garage, aims to keep his employees happy and fulfilled at work. He believes loyalty is crucial in creating a positive work environment. and I always would say so. When people felt they were confident and secure in their job, they tend to work a little bit harder. And as I was reading it, I was also like, yeah. And I was thinking about my internship, because the thing is, with internships, you probably are not just a master in this area, because then you would actually not have an internship but have a job, I assume, unless it is just something that you want to do, because it is also a pretty nice thing to do. And just I had to do it because of my school, but I'm actually pretty happy that I'm having to do this, because I don't know if I would actually do it when I'm not actually forced to do it. But it is actually a really great experience, and it is also something that I would totally suggest everyone to do, because you can learn such a lot of things, and you can just experience things. It is about experience. It really is. It is just really an interesting thing to see how companies are working, to see what it is like to just work in a company, especially as a student, because I didn't have any experience before, before my internships and before the work that I did in my summer holidays. I didn't have any experience in that space, because my family is not, well, we are having a family business somehow to some degree, but I'm not really incorporated there. It is not like just some store or something that would be really easily to participate in. But I haven't had any experience before, and it's just really amazing to see how the economy is actually working, and how the whole work life is working, what people do there, what it is like in terms of, the pressure, because I don't know, I might have assumed that there is a lot of pressure, just because it is about money, and sometimes even about quite a lot of money, depends on the company, of course, but sometimes it really is about a lot of money, and then losing the money is definitely not good for any company, whether it is small, big, and something in between. It is really not good for a company to lose a lot of money, For sure, I don't know, $1 million would be just really over the top for a small business, but for just, I don't know, Apple, it is something like, well, yeah, we just wasted it. It is still bad and it is still not good, but it is just not like life-threatening or something. It totally is not. So building and maintaining that kind of atmosphere requires more than the occasional grand gesture. However, Leno also instituted an open-door policy and always contracted writers for a full year rather than a 13-week run, he says, which is something that I also appreciate, to be honest. So when people felt they were confident and secure in their job, they tend to work a little bit harder, Leno says. And to just actually come back to my internship experience, just because I'm really not a boss and really not a master in the craft that I'm doing, which is graphic design, because internships are meant to learn something, to experience something. And I don't know, I really don't like the feeling of not being confident in what I'm doing, especially if I'm just in a work scenario, in a workplace where I am meant to work there. And I'm also meant in terms of myself, I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself to just perform in a really good way. But the thing is, I just don't like to do that. I just don't like to have that, being in a space. And of course, it is just totally normal because we all have to learn certain things, of course. And when we don't learn something, then we are not able to do it, basically, But the thing is, I don't know, I always felt like not able to do things, a little bit too slow, a little bit too I didn't always know what to do. And this is particularly a feeling that I just don't like to have. It is something like, it is just not good. Giving employees a sense of ownership over their work goes a long way. Leno found when people feel they are a part of the process and their livelihood depends on your livelihood, or livelihood, but I guess it is livelihood, they are more likely to do a good job. And for me, as I was reading it, it was just totally clear that it just makes sense. Because the thing is, if people somehow feel like, that they can make a difference, or that they are making a difference, or that you actually need them so that the whole company is working, they actually feel they feel important, they feel important to the whole company. And I don't know if you're just feeling really important as an internship guy in an Apple store or something, or in the company Apple. I don't know. It's just a really big ass company. It still depends on, which is something that I don't know. It really depends on how they are just dealing with the internship people or with the just employees in general. which is, as I said, something that I don't know. So I'm just assuming that you kind of feel pretty small and pretty insignificant. But if you're just, I don't know, I do not even know if there is just a lot of people, but I assume that he's just making them feel really important and significant. And if you really feel a significance, and if you really feel that you're just able to make a difference, and by you working hard, the whole movie or the whole production is going to be better, which means that you're actually having an active kind of, you're an active variable for the whole production, which is something really, 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 truly amazing and truly good. Another key aspect of Leno's leadership philosophy, he made sure to visibly carry his own weight on the show, rather than coasting on the efforts of his writers and producers. So I try to get there early and leave the latest, he says. People don't begrudge you how much money you're making if they think you're working for it. Something to actually emphasize there is they think. You're coming in before them and you're supporting them, and then you leave at the end of the day after they leave. I think that inspires loyalty, and I would also say so. I think it also just really makes a huge difference. If you're actually, if if you actually look like, to your employees that you're working hard. Of course, if you're early there and if you just stay late, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a lot of shit, but it actually seems to be the case that people think that you are doing that. And of course, if you're helping them by doing things that you just know about, of course, they're also going to feel good about you. And they're also going to feel like, okay, it is an important guy. And he should be just paid quite a lot of money because he's a really important guy to the whole production, especially if the whole production is about you. Like, if you're kind of the main character there, of course you are important. So, yeah, as I'm just thinking about it, is there actually a correlation between being important and having a big ass salary? Because I kind of feel like it is actually the case, because the thing is, the more valuable you are to the company, the more money you should be paid. Because if you leave, they are going to be fucking devastated. They're not going to be happy about it. They're really not going to be happy about the fact that you are leaving, which should actually mean that you should get paid quite a lot of money, so that you won't leave. Or just at least because, I don't know, money is definitely not the only reason why people would leave. Of course, it is a reason, and by kind of eliminating this reason, they're able to kind of minimize or just lower the chance that you're going to leave the whole place. I do not really think that just having more money, having a bigger salary, or whatever is just the only kind of way, how employers want or employers try to keep you or try to keep personnel or staff or whatever. I guess, they also think about other things, it actually reminds me of a story from Gary Vee, it's actually a pretty interesting story and a pretty funny story as well. And it is all about a guy that actually wanted to leave him. And for me, as I'm just thinking about it, it seems to be the case that this person was quite important, for the whole company. And this person wanted to leave, but Gary decided to actually gift him, I think it was 2 tickets to a baseball game or something, or to an NFL game, so a football game. It was something like that. I guess it was just a sports game. And just because of the fact that he gave him 2 cards, maybe for him, or maybe they even went there together or something. It could also be the case. But just something that is for sure is that he got he got a free game. He got a free baseball, NBA, football game, whatever game. And this was actually, in the end, the only reason why he stayed. And it is something really interesting. It is something really impactful. Or it actually seems to be the case that it really impacts people. If you're maybe are nice to them, or if you just know what they like to have. Because obviously, it is something that he just liked. Just having this game, or just being in this game, or at this game. In this game, not really. Definitely seemed, for me at least, as I'm thinking about it, as something that is relatively interesting and also relatively important to this particular person. And I assume that this just also can make a difference. It really is not only about money. It is just totally also about happiness. Maybe, I don't know, like I can assume that if you are surrounded by people that really are not good for you, or people that are really like shitty shitty ass motherfuckers that you really want to leave the place. You really want to leave this workplace that you are at, even though you're getting a fucking bigger salary. I can really understand that, and I always assume that there's actually maybe even quite some people that are doing this, or that are actually leaving a workplace or a company just because of this fact. But yeah, let's actually also go ahead with another Quora question, just because we actually have quite a lot of time. I went through this whole article really fast, maybe just because I went through it already before. How do I stop doing things just one more time? I don't know. No. But why can't you see it? Now you can see it. It's amazing. Now you can see it. As you can see, there are quite a lot of questions. How do I give meaning to my meaningless life? It is actually a pretty good question. So, how do I give meaning to my meaningless life? And before I go through it, if you want to ask me questions, well, the best way, at least at my point of view, is to just hit me up on any social media site you like. I'm basically everywhere, everywhere where you are, I'm always at. And, you could also just tag me on Quora if this is working. I still didn't figure it out, unfortunately. So the best way is to just maybe write me an email. But I guess actually the best way is to hit me up on social media, because there I'm seeing it just quite sure. I'm really sure to see that. But how do I give meaning to my meaningless life? I do believe that working on something that you actually like and something that you're passionate about, and having goals in the end, whether there's actually something that you're working at, which means, like, for example, a podcast, a social media site, it actually just adds meaning to your life, because you kind of feel like, okay, I have to do this, I have to work on my new social media site because I want it to grow. I want to have it like 100k subscribers or followers, wherever you are with your social media thing. And this really could add meaning to your life. But I really don't only think about some work thing or it is actually a hobby, but also maybe bodybuilding or sports in general. Being on tournaments, if you're playing soccer or if you're playing football, could also add a lot of meaning to your life, because there is then not a lot of time to think about, what is my meaning, or what should I be doing, or shouldn't I be doing something else. But it just adds meaning, and I really believe that goals in general just add meaning to your life, because, if it is something that you're passionate about, if it is something that you actually like to do, if it is something that you hate, it is more like drowning your soul. Unfortunately, I'm really sure and honest and serious. But I think actually having goals, whether it be sports goals, whether it be work goals, whether it be just, I actually wanted to say relationship goals, but maybe even as well, like having a significant other might also just add a lot of meaning to your life. But, this is just a really dangerous one, I guess, because if this person kind of decides to leave you because of certain reasons, then your meaning is going. And your meaning is going away from you. Your meaning is actually leaving you then. And it is not a particularly good thing, at least as I'm just thinking about it, as I'm just consuming it through my own, thoughts. But yeah, I would say so. I would say that adding something of meaning to your life by having goals, and by having a path, and by having something to go for, and having something to pursue, having something to think and do, and believe in. And yeah, I believe so. I guess so. I think this would really add meaning to your life. At least it somehow did for me, or did to me. But yeah, so this is going to be the end of your episode. The first episode of the 3 that I'm going to record today, I assume, because I have to record for Amsterdam, because I am in Amsterdam in 2 weeks actually. No, it's actually less than 2 weeks. It's quite a week, and therefore I do have to hurry up, upload all the shit, record all the shit. But yeah, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And I also hope that you're going to remind yourself on how you're going to be remembered. So basically, your legacy, which means that being nice and hoping that you're going to be remembered as a nice person. The problem there is that there is just a lot of people, that are just, they just won't like you. No matter how generous you are, no matter how kind you are, no matter how nice you are, they still just dislike you. And it is then really not about you. It is just most of the time, then it is about them. It really then is not about you. But 3 other questions that I hope that you're going to ask yourself and you're going to think about are, why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? And these 3 questions could also add a lot of meaning to your life, but also purpose. Why are you here? It is just about purpose. And purpose is something that's incredibly important in life. But yeah, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you do not want to miss out on any valuable information, any really important information. I would totally appreciate that. So click the link in the description to go to the podcast, subscribe to the podcast as well, rate the video and rate the podcast. It would really mean a lot to me. Really, 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 because it is quite some work, but it's work that I like to do. And I'll see you the next time, hopefully.